I've been talking lately with some people about pleasure, and because sometimes we'd like to try to have deep thoughts about life and how we understand it in a better way. And I consider sometimes pleasure more of a negative thing than a positive thing. And I grew up in an environment where pleasure was really well accepted. It's not like a good thing. But I think pleasure is a way of wasting a lot of potential because when you think about it and you look for pleasure constantly on a daily basis, you can end up in drugs or you can end up wasting a lot of time. Again, you end up drinking alcohol more than you should, or doing a lot of things because of the sake of pleasures, or even sex. You can start like having a lot of sex around because of the pleasure that it gives. So I think pleasure is something that we need to be really careful about and do not think that pleasure is a good thing and that's it. It's deeper than that.
You touch on addiction. So addiction is a way of using pleasure to hide something that's uncomfortable or that we don't want to address in our life. So we want to keep something hidden. And so then we use the addictions, this kind of wild search of pleasure to hide this deeper problem. And it remains hidden. And so then part of addiction treatment is to go down to that deeper level and find out what the problem is. And so the pleasures of addiction are overeating, gambling, kleptomania, stealing things so it gives you that rush, the sex addictions, those sort of things, heroin, any kind of drug addiction, heroin, alcohol, amphetamine. And that kind of search of pleasure is connected to addiction, which is oftentimes connected to some kind of trauma. It could be an early life trauma, childhood trauma, teenage trauma. And or some other maybe depressive syndrome, and you're going to use the addiction to self-medicate, you might say, or treat that on your own.
Yeah.
That's the bad side of pleasure. The good side of pleasure is that it is really essential and necessary for human life. So the very first pleasure is going to be the newborn baby and the mom, and there's oxytocin and dopamine when the mom is holding the baby, and they're maybe breastfeeding, and the baby's smiling and looking at it. And so there's a lot of pleasure in that maternal infant interaction, and then with the dad too, interacting with the baby. It's a very pleasurable thing. And so that kind of pleasure, that's the good side and the bad side of pleasure. That part of pleasure is absolutely necessary for human beings.
Yeah.
And then, of course, later on in life, we have at forming relationships with a pal or a buddy or a girl's night out or boys' night out, that sort of thing, the bromance kind of thing. And then, of course, the other romance is going to be the soulmates, or then a very healthy partner relationship with, say, a husband and wife. So that can be very pleasurable, and that's very necessary. So
Yeah.
there's the good pleasure, but then also the